everybody, Stewart and Swerdlow.
And Janet Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the third week in March 2014.
It's hard to believe it's almost the end of March. Unbelievable.
Well, the snow is melting. I'm starting to see things from under the piles of snow.
Like grass.
Yeah, it's kind of brown.
But it's there.
But
it survived.
But it's still way below freezing, and not going to be above freezing till when? Like the end of next week.
I think we still are projected to get
snow. Snow's coming, I think, Monday night and Tuesday. And
probably not a lot, but we'll get some.
Still, it's like, who cares anymore? Really.
It's not another snowy day.
No. And I have some bits of news to tell you. Oh, first we should talk about our trip to New York.
We should.
Yeah, because that was very successful at the Meta Center in Midtown Manhattan. We had over 100 people. It was a very nice lecture with people from all over the world were there. People from Israel, Armenia, Russia, Poland.
You name it, I think they were there.
A lot of people there, made a lot of good contacts for the future. We did a very nice, wonderful radio show.
Yeah, Talking Alternatives.
With Sam Leibowitz, who was a very good host, and perhaps some good connections there for future seminars. And
well, actually, we've been invited back again already.
Been invited back again, and
by MatchMySpirit.com, Naina Nakagawa.
Excellent,
lovely lady.
Wonderful person, and her husband Aman.
Very wonderful, lovely
we know
people.
for many years.
Yes, and many of you may know Aman from the seminars because he's been here many times. But anyway, she has invited us back to New York City the middle of June, so be sure you watch for that event to pop up soon.
Yeah, and that went very well. New York has, we actually stayed in the city this time, and New York is just as crowded as ever. A lot of people there. We didn't hear English spoken anywhere.
But the food was fantastic.
The food I have to say, for New York, if I lived there, I'd be like 4,000 pounds.
You would not have any cooking podcasts because I would be at
those. We'd just be stuffing our face in the Korean restaurants and the Japanese restaurants.
East Indian restaurants.
East Indian, oh my God.
We ate fabulous food.
Just incredible.
Wonderful, wonderful food.
Yeah. And so now onto some serious news.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just start with my notes because we don't know, they're in no particular order. This past week, there have been moderate earthquakes in Oklahoma, and would you believe Kansas? Now, when I was growing up, you never heard of any earthquakes in Kansas. All you heard was tornadoes.
No.
Tornadoes, and maybe occasionally you'd bleep into the land of Oz.
Well, I heard I used to drive through there a lot because my family was in Missouri.
Oh, yes.
So we used to see a lot of oil wells.
In Kansas?
Yeah.
There was just cornfields.
No, they're
and
oil.
Dorothy and
In fact,
Toto.
my great-grandfather's brother, after he sold his property, they found tons of oil on his property.
Did you ever see Annie M. and the farm there with...
Oh, in my dreams.
Yeah.
I remember I'm from the land of...
You are from the
Emerald
Seattle,
City.
Which is the Emerald City.
City. Yep.
Absolutely.
So it makes sense I drive through Kansas.
Mm-hmm. So why is this happening? All these things in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri. Well, because as I've mentioned to you several times before, there is that North American craton, which is an ancient tectonic borderline when there were different continental configurations. And so this fracture that goes really as a U-shape across North America, one of the branches of that tectonic ancient fault line goes right through Missouri, Kansas, etc. And of course part of it now is actually the New Madrid fault line, which they said is very active, and we can expect a big quake really at any time. So people, any of you listening in the Midwest, especially in the plains area of Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, yes, expect these quakes to continue as that ancient tectonic line becomes more active.
Now, I would also like to add to this story because You know, there was a huge mudslide that just happened in Seattle. And I see it going
Well,
around.
it's in the, actually northern.
Well, it's
Washington
north of
State.
Seattle, but the point is that it's going around the internet that it's because of the earthquake.
It was not from an earthquake.
No, and that's what I want you to understand, because there's a lot of development up in that area, and so what happened as they plowed down the trees and they stuck houses in, well, the trees with all the roots would hold the ground and the moisture and suck up all the rain. Well, now that we don't have the trees and the grasses and whatnot to suck up all the rain that comes down, of course, now we have mudslides because there's nothing to suck up the rain. So, and as you know, it's a very wet area, wet climate up there in Seattle. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So don't listen to the rumors it's because of earthquakes. It's because of the rural development that's gone on
No, of
there.
course, the fault line up there is due for a 9+ at any moment.
Yes.
It's actually about 14 or 15 years overdue. So when that happens, the mudslide this week will be like nothing compared to that.
Yeah, well, then it'll be like a
Yeah.
Lahard from Mount
Lahar,
Rainier.
yeah. Which
The whole
Seattle
other thing.
is built over the old Lahar from Mount Rainier. Okay, speaking of volcanoes, scientists are saying that the Hekla volcano in Iceland may soon blow. And the ground is starting to bulge, the magma's filling up, and they said it could impact air travel as well as other things, just like 2010 or 11 it was when the other volcano disrupted travel for a couple of weeks. The last eruption for Hekla was in 2006, which was a very minor one, but it's considered one of the most deadly volcanoes not only in Iceland but in the world. And as I've mentioned to you before, Hekla has a twin sister named Katla, Hekla and Katla, which are called the evil sisters in Iceland. And usually when one goes, the other one goes. And the last time that happened, almost 25% of the Iceland population was killed, and over 50% of the animals were killed. So it's not going to be a pleasant situation in Iceland. Let's hope that it doesn't happen. Now, of course, the big story in the news, and I can't remember if we spoke about it the last time, is the Malaysia Air Flight 370, which now the flight is 370, and the plane disappeared on 3/7, March 7. So you can't make that up. That's something to do with what happened. And of course, every rumor, black holes, alien abduction, pilot suicide, all this stuff, absolutely ridiculous. If there was a catastrophic event aboard the plane, it wouldn't have flown for 7 hours afterwards. It's become very obvious that someone in the cockpit, most likely the pilot, who was very experienced, reprogrammed the plane to alter course. All of the transmission technologies were shut off in sequence, so that was done purposely. Now, if they were one of the pilots or anybody was going to commit suicide, why would they fly the plane for 7 hours first and then do that? They would do that and they'd leave a note, they'd leave some kind of reason why they did it. Again, if there was a catastrophic fire, explosion, there would be debris locally in that area. They're searching now in the southern Indian Ocean in an area near Antarctica, where the waves are high, the winds are strong. Not going to find anything if that's what happened, because now we have the Chinese satellites and the French satellites and Australian satellites. They found this piece and that piece on the side, and then they go and they don't find it.
Well, it's like people are saying around the internet, and this part I do believe, they can track you on your cell phone, they can unlock your car by satellite, but they've lost a plane. So that has got to be an erroneous story.
First of all, it's been over 2 weeks, and any pieces that they see on these satellite images, which they say are large, obviously it's from the plane, it's metallic, it wouldn't have floated around for 2 weeks. It would have sunk a long time ago. So, people, there's no debris. Here's what I have heard from reliable sources, is that the plane actually was taken to the island of Diego Garcia, which is a British/American military base in the Indian Ocean, which is where many of the Al-Qaeda so-called terrorist people had been taken before they were transferred to Guantanamo and other places. Now, on board that plane were quite a few Chinese engineers and Malaysian engineers who were involved in computer technology, all kinds of warfare technology, and the story or the information I received says that these engineers were kidnapped, being downloaded for the information in preparation for what might be considered a war between the United States, China, the new Soviet Union, all of these things happening. Now my question is, if that is true, and to me that is more logical because that's why they haven't found the plane, because it's on this island, at least it was. What did they do with the other passengers, with the children, with the old people? What did they do with them? Did they execute them? Are they keeping them prisoners somewhere? Who knows?
But the rumor is because they went so high that the people would pass
Well,
out.
we don't know if that's true because it's said that the flight went to 45,000 feet. That aircraft is not designed to go to that altitude, and that if it did, the passenger would pass out or become unconscious. But then so would the pilots, unless they had some kind of
Well, they would have
equipment
been prepared, obviously.
that allowed that. But then again, so would the engineers that want to download become unconscious or possibly pass away.
But
So
then they could quickly run around and resuscitate those that they
it
want.
just seems that this was planned for quite a period of
course.
time. Who knows if they'll ever find out the truth of what happened, but my opinion is I believe that plane was purposely flown to the island of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Look it up on the map and you will see that it's a very logical and plausible explanation. So I want to get that out of the way. Now, to more international news. We hear all these things going on with Ukraine and Crimea and Russia taking over all these things. Well, I mentioned last time, Ukraine is over 50% Russian speaking and Crimea is over 70% Russian speaking. And I told you it was part of Russia at one point, and it had been since until 1954. Now there's another province just north of Crimea, where the 70% of the population, actually almost 100%, is Russian speaking, and they are looking to now separate from Ukraine. And in Russia, I told you Ukraina, the name, it means borderland, and so Ukraine was really the borderland area for the Russian Empire for many, since time immemorial. And the Russians' name for Ukraine also means Little Russia. So they don't, and that's why Putin said he doesn't recognize it as a separate state, because in their minds it is Russia. So I just wanted to throw that out there, but because of all these separatist ideas, places that you wouldn't imagine are also thinking of this. For example, in Spain, which has an unemployment rate around 26%, it's actually more than 50% for young people, there is a strong separatist movement in Catalonia, which is Barcelona is the capital of Catalonia. They speak Catalan. It's a separate culture. It's actually more related to your Waldensian, Patois, Languedoc. It's connected also into the French part, just north of the border there. And the people in Barcelona and the Catalan region plan a vote in November to secede from Spain. Now, Spain, was unified after the Moors invaded, and then when the Moors were expelled, then the royalty of Spain started to acquiesce and actually occupy these different regions that were not Spanish. You have Catalan, you have Asturias, you have the Basque region, all these separate, they had their own language, their own culture, and there was no Spanish culture until after the Moors were kicked out. And so Spain is a collection of little countries, Italy is a collection of countries, France is a collection of countries. Now, guess what? The Germans are against the separatists in Catalan because they said they've already given aid to the Greeks and bailed them out, and now they don't want to have to bail out other little countries that emerge. Angela Merkel in Germany said she doesn't want to become EU's main lender. And I quote from University of Pennsylvania Wharton School economist. He says, Germany is flatly opposed to more states in the European Union because they will have to foot the bill if there are more bailouts. Well, hello Germany, and do you think Angela watches my podcast? I think she does.
Not Hitler's daughter.
I think Angela has like a thing for me. But anyway, Angela, dear, if you're listening, look, Germany is responsible for all of this because you screwed up Europe in World War II. The current borders in Europe now are the result of German aggression in World War II. So you know what? You should bail people out and pay for things because Germany screwed it up. And I'll even say to Elizabeth, Queen, I know she watches.
Of course.
I know Charles watches.
We've got notes.
And Camilla, also. Britain screwed up the rest of the world because they occupied everything, they changed borders, they broke up countries, and so the world is screwed up by Germany and Britain.
Well, Britain is related to Germany, remember.
That's very true. Good point.
They're run by the same people.
Very good point. Now, the lawmakers or the political people in Madrid are very much against what they call an illegal separation of Catalan from Spain. And what actually makes it more interesting, and if you look at this, the Basque people in Spain also want separate movement, but the Basque territory actually extends into France. France does not want to break up their country, but it's not just them, because as you know, I think September this year, Scotland is voting on separating from the UK. The Irish want Northern Ireland back into the Republic of Ireland, which it really should be. And here's something I didn't even know. The Flemish people in Belgium want to separate from, now Belgium's a tiny country to begin with. Can you imagine if that gets cut in half? And Bavaria wants to separate from Germany. And what people don't know is that during the Middle Ages, Bavaria was actually a separate country that encompassed what is now Bavaria, Austria, Germany, northern Italy. So you know what? Europe, the way it is now, is just not accurate as far as cultures and people, etc. And here's the biggest funny thing of all, is that the EU leaders said that European Union is happy with 28 countries. They don't want to have 31. Well, then why did you want Ukraine to join the EU? Doesn't make sense. Then why are you trying to force Norway and Switzerland and Iceland to join the EU if you were happy with 28 countries?
Well, you forgot about the most important separate movement of all. You told me.
What?
The one in northern Italy, in the Savoie.
Well, that's part of the French thing also. The province, the former country of Savoy or Savoie, which goes between Italy
my
and
people
France.
are from.
They also want separate.
Yes.
Now, speaking of countries breaking up, how about the reverse? Because in the 1990s, Henry Kissinger, you know Henry.
Of course.
I think
he also watches.
I know he watches, but he writes it under a different name because he doesn't want me to know. But Henry said, or I like to call him Hank, said, and I quote, "What Congress will have before it is not a conventional trade agreement." He's talking about NAFTA, the North American Trade Agreement. But the architecture of a new international system, a first step toward a new world order.
And when did he say this?
In the early 1990s. And Obama apparently is interested in this as well. Here are some of the proposals for an established union of Canada, the United States, and Mexico. You know what that will mean? Here's the first thing. 1. Establish a security perimeter around U.S., Canada, and Mexico. 2. Eliminate the borders between them. 3. Create a parliament of 15 members, 5 from each nation, to rule over them. 4. Make one of the 15 parliament members the president of the 3 nations. 5. Give the parliament supremacy over all national governing bodies, including Congress of the United States. 6. Establish a court with supremacy over the U.S. Supreme Court. 7. Allow unrestricted movement of people and goods between nations. I actually think that's a good idea. 8. Give amnesty to so-called illegal aliens. Well,
they
already have it. 9. Give Social Security and health care benefits to so-called illegal aliens. Also already done. 10. Merge the militaries of the 3 nations. Well, that's also
already done.
11, build a superhighway called the I-69 corridor from Mexico to Canada. Some of these already have been implemented, and there is a road already built that
So
way.
this is just now being called for.
It's just now, but it happened. President Obama's 2013 State of the Union address stated that he was negotiating a new trade agreement or treaty with the Pacific Rim nations called Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TTP. According to this information that's been leaked out about it, the TPP said it will be patterned after the EU and allow unelected officials to dictate the laws of the United States. And that's what the EU has, because as I've mentioned to all of you listeners in the EU, the people who make your laws in Strasbourg are not elected by you. They are appointed by other people.
And we don't know who appoints them.
Well, that's the big secret. And it said that this new TPP agreement has the purpose to give President Obama the authority to speed up the establishment of the North American Union. But here's what's even more fascinating, because you know who Senator Dianne Feinstein is from California? Well, Senator Dianne Feinstein displayed a borderless map of the U.S., Canada, and Mexico at a meeting of the Senate Judiciary Committee on July 31st, 2013, and called the three nations, in quote, homeland. And you can Google that. Then there was the U.S. ambassador to the UN, named Samantha Powers, who once wrote, and I quote, "Giving up a pinch of sovereignty is good for the United States, and the citizens of the U.S., Canada, and Mexico will need a Western Hemisphere compliant travel document by May 2017 to travel in the Western Hemisphere." So that's all we have
Coming up.
to look forward to, people.
Now we knew it. I mean, we've been talking about this for years. It's just now discussing the implementation.
And now for a weird thing. And
Gonna get any weirder?
yes, because it's a mystery over New Mexico.
I saw that.
And it says a mysterious green blob appeared on the weather radar last week over southern New Mexico and is baffling National Weather Service. And then it spread east to Oklahoma. The National Weather Service said it's not weather related, and that's what our business is. We don't know exactly what it could be. Well, they don't know what the weather is either, so they should really go out of business.
Well, then the plane people can't find the plane.
Yeah,
We don't
now,
know what blob
but wait,
is.
this is even the funniest part of all, because what do they call it? You see a UFO, you see a weird thing, what do they always call it?
UFO.
Now, others say it was a weather balloon,
Oh.
or some kind of balloon, because that's what they, it's a balloon, it's candles floating up, and, that's how they identify everything. So, I'm done.
You're done? That was a lot.
Yeah, well,
All right, well, I wanted to also bring up a couple of international points, and since you brought up Spain already, I wanted to ask your opinion about their Spain anti-austerity protesters that were clashing. Because what was interesting to me, it obviously had to be well planned, because it said there were 6 columns of protesters, each from a different region in Spain, arriving at the outskirts of the city early Saturday before heading for Cologne Square, carrying banners bearing the slogan "Marching for Dignity." And apparently this is in favor of the poor people. They wanted to highlight the plight of the poor. So how did all these people come together? I mean, to organize
It's because
anything.
they're paid to do it,
That's
and
right.
it's orchestrated by intelligence services.
Right, and I agree with that. It said they came by foot, by buses from several Spanish regions, etc. And so I'm wondering if this we will be seeing this kind of protest organized from behind the scenes in the U.S. If this might perhaps be a first step towards seeing how different cultures and areas react.
Oh, and did you see, I think I played that video for you this morning, because it reminds me of how people are brainwashed, that when they're looking for that plane, people are right, well, why don't you just use drones? It's like drones that have a positive use.
Well, of course.
They're a good thing.
Well, they're trying, like Amazon wants to do it to deliver books, so yeah, everything is, and of course it's all being put out there for public consumption, so if you think everybody else wants it, then of course you should want it too, since the media is obviously controlled, except for, of course, our little expansions.com.
Well, people say that you control me. So.
Well, I do. It's known. I just say that publicly. Yes, I do control Stewart. I am his handler, so please stop writing in that maybe I might be and quit suspecting, because it's true.
It is just true. Yeah.
All right. Now, then the other thing which was interesting that I found in my news, that Iranians are building a mock-up vessel. Did you read about that?
I heard about it, yeah.
Of a U.S. aircraft carrier. And so the senior Democrat on the horse,
He's on a horse
He's on a
now.
horse.
They can't afford cars anymore.
I guess not, on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, says Iran's construction of a mock-up U.S. aircraft carrier demonstrates Iran's continued lack of good faith.
Well, you think?
So they're saying that this signals a plans for a new level of effort and sophistication in Iran's naval training for the use of, quote, unconventional doctrine and capabilities to confront superior U.S. naval power. So it sounds like they're again trying to make Iran, everybody afraid of course, of the Muslims.
Or maybe they just made the mock-up as like they're going to give it as a present.
Well, I don't know. They said that one U.S. official described this mock-up as more akin to a Hollywood set than an actual warship. So, we'll see.
We'll see.
All right, now, this next one, we've got to get into some history here. This is a fossil bed in China that's being called Jurassic Park that has perhaps yielded the greatest dinosaur soft tissue discovery of all time. Now, this article I found particularly interesting.
Yeah, I read that one too.
Yes, because they're saying that dinosaurs, it says if these dinosaurs are really 160 million years old, that should be absolutely
Right,
impossible.
come up because they found feathers and
All
skin,
kinds of-
which should
all
not
kinds of-
exist that long.
Yes, so it says, of course, they always have to have a backstory. So the backstory, of course, in the Smithsonian, which of course is suspect because we
Was
know
balloon
this
with weather balloons.
Well, that could be.
Yeah.
Anyway, there is a molecular paleontologist at North Carolina State University, supposedly, because we never know about these people, named Mary Schweitzer. And back in 1991, when she was studying thin slices of bones from a 65 million year old, supposedly,
She needs to get
T-Rex,
a job.
she's thought that she found red blood cells in the bone, which would have been impossible if they were really 65 million
Gosh.
years old,
Yes, really.
because red blood cells don't preserve. So then,
Mine still aren't preserved.
then it
and I'm not
claims
here now.
that she made her discovery public, then she was viciously attacked, we know what that feels like,
Yeah.
by other evolutionists who insisted that finding dinosaur soft tissue that was millions of years old was absolutely impossible. However, now they're saying not just soft tissue, but detectable proteins such as collagen, hemoglobin, osteocalcin, actin, tubulin, these kind of complex molecules that generally tend to break down to simpler ones, and they're not doing that. So then we continue to extrapolate this and say that perhaps dinosaurs are not as old as we have been told.
Well, I've been telling people.
And then there was a person who wrote this particular article that says, why does ancient art contain depictions of flying aircraft, helicopters, and dinosaurs? Because if we've only been digging up dinosaurs for a couple of 100 years, how did the ancient people know what dinosaurs looked like?
Exactly.
So we have a lot of interesting things that continue to revolve around dinosaurs and reptilians and all kinds of things that are supposedly ancient. And again, your history is going to be changed in front of your eyes. So watch this story to continue to grow. Now this one I think you will find interesting, particularly. This one is about mind control. There is now in development, it's called future biotechnology, but if it's future, we know it exists, that could be used to trick a prisoner's mind into thinking that they have served a 1,000-year sentence in 8 hours.
That's the story of my life.
It says philosopher, now this is interesting, philosopher Rebecca Roach is in charge of a team of scholars focused upon the ways futuristic technologies might transform punishment. It's like, who wants to study punishment? But I guess there are people who do this. She claims that the prison sentence of serious criminals could be made worse by extending their lives.
That's what God did to me.
Yeah. So this doctor says that drugs could be developed to distort prisoners' minds into thinking time was passing more slowly. So I quote her, she says, there are a number of psychoactive drugs that distort people's sense of time, so you could imagine developing a pill or a liquid that made someone feel like they were serving a 1,000-year sentence.
They just have to spend time with my ex-wife.
Okay. Now, the second scenario, she says, would be to upload human minds to computers. And how that works, I don't know. Okay, to speed up the rate at which the mind works. And then she goes on to say, is it really okay to lock someone up for the best part of the only life they will ever have, or might it be more humane to tinker with their brains and set them free? When we ask that question, the goal isn't simply to imagine a bunch of futuristic punishments. The goal is to look at today's punishments through the lens of the future. So I thought this was very interesting when we start talking about mind control and what is already happening in the prison population, which of course they're not going to tell you about. So I thought that was very interesting. All right. Then on to something a little bit more of a light vein, if you want to call it that, because this has to do with the foods that you eat. So this is just kind of a quick little run through of some of the things that you may be eating that you don't know what you're eating.
Somehow I think I don't want to hear
This
this.
is probably true, but you don't eat this stuff, so it doesn't really apply to you. But it's interesting for people who do eat this kind of things. For example, do you know that some people eat human hair and duck feathers? Listed as L-cysteine.
Really?
Yep. Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
Okay, right. They find it in bagels, cakes, and more.
Well, I don't eat that stuff.
Then they eat beaver anal secretions.
Oh my God.
Which is called castoreum.
You know when you talk about beavers, know what I want to say? Damn.
Anyway, that is an artificial vanilla flavor, apparently. Okay, coal tar, which has now been replaced by oil as food coloring. So these are things you're putting into your body. Antifreeze is often listed as propylene glycol, and that's often in salad dressings. Flame retardant is listed as brominated vegetable oil, and that says high levels of consumption may be tied to impaired neurological abilities and early onset puberty. Then we have biodiesel additive known as TBHQ, which is in everything from chicken nuggets to bubble gum to nail polish to cheese crackers. And it says this stuff is so toxic that just 1 gram of it could make you ill. So, you know, if you're doing a lot of different things and you're getting this stuff in your system.
Well, see, we don't eat any of that stuff.
We don't, but some people out there might. So I want you to be aware of what you might be eating. Sand is known as silicon dioxide. This is in salts and soups and more.
Really?
That's why I tell you to get good quality, high-grade sea salt. Jet fuel additives, known as BHT. They use that a lot in cereal to maintain its crispness, like the kind you get in a box. Again, we don't eat that kind of stuff, but a lot of people do. And borax, also known as E285. Now this one you might be eating because it's a food preservative in caviar. And we
But
know
I don't eat caviar.
you dine on that all the time, every night, sturgeon roe.
Yeah.
So anyway, it says it's banned from
I have that on my gasoline bagels.
Yes. So here we have that it's banned from most foods in the U.S. Surprise, because most everything is allowed in the U.S.
Other poisons that they put instead.
This particular one is in EU caviar, and it's imported from there.
EU people, I'm warning you.
So you have to be careful. All right, then the last story that I have, again, this one is entitled, People Are Actually Drinking Pig's Blood Cocktails. Apparently in Chicago, there is a Chicago-based bartender who called Nandini Kand, created something called a Rain in Blood cocktail that features pig's blood as the key ingredients. And she says, quote, at first it just tasted like blood. I don't know how she would know what that tasted like. Then she says, then the finish started kicking in, which was kind of like smoked pork and got richer and richer. Then it got gamey. By the end it just tasted like this iron death. It was really intense and it went on for half an hour, unquote.
She probably would like the beaver anal secretions as well.
She probably would. That would be maybe too good because it's supposed to taste like vanilla.
Maybe she could mix that in there.
And then there's a TLC show called My Strange Addiction, apparently. And there it said a woman was featured for being hooked on blood. She said, I like to drink blood when I'm reading, when I'm relaxing, when I'm watching TV, when I'm painting.
She's a vampire.
There's never a bad time for me to drink blood. So, and of course, a long time ago, when people, use all part of animals for everything. But this is, again, different. This is just about relaxing with a cup of blood, which is different than when you're eating.
Well, where did she get it?
Well, I don't even want to know. Now, the woman who did the cocktail said she had a friend who was a butcher, and that's where she got it from the pigs. The other woman, again, I don't know, and I probably don't want to know. But these are things that are going on. And I was scrolling through Facebook, and we have a lot of Facebook friends, of course, and as I was looking through the things that people are putting up on there, it's so disgusting. really do not contribute to the degradation of humanity that's going on. It's disgusting.
It's already enough degraded.
Oh, it's horrible.
Or degraded,
And it's going, it continues to go that way, down into the animal mind. So do your best to elevate yourself up and don't stay there, because it's disgusting.
One more little tidbit, actually we talk about it before it happens, but April 20th is Easter. It's also Hitler's birthday. Now, those two came to, Angela's going to be so happy.
She'll be happy she watched this podcast.
Yes, and so just keep your ears and eyes open in case something happens around that date, because they're not going to miss that date.
No, of course not. And there's a reason they picked Easter for that day, obviously. And anybody who wants to know more True World history, we are almost sold out of the next printing, so please go ahead and get your orders placed. It's a fabulous book with a lot of information, and people now on Facebook are writing about this, which is nice to see that happening, because
really?
a lot of people's eyes are being opened. So read the book, pass it around to your friends, let them know you're reading it. Send us a picture on Facebook. It's always fun to see where in the world the book has traveled to. And we want to remind you that in about a month, we do have our amazing Spring Healing Conference coming up called Finding Your Frequency. And this one is going to help you find your place in the God mind itself, because we're going to be talking about plant, animal, mineral, human, non-human, alien, ET, oversoul matrix, God mind, and we're adding in radiation, because that's kind of interesting with all the information that's going on out there. Perhaps another plot to control your mind that we are going to help to discern.
Will we be actually distributing radiation?
No, maybe you'll eat some for them.
Or I might just have a blood cocktail with beaver anal secretion in it.
You might. In fact, you'll have to go out and hunt your beaver here soon.
Well, we have them actually in the ravine.
Yeah, well, there you go. Easy
Yeah.
enough. And then you are going to be doing your own radiation research directly afterwards when you depart for Fukushima.
Yeah. Watch your language.
Yeah, May 9th you will be in Tokyo for an astounding...
May 6th through 14th.
But the event is May 9th.
Oh, May 9th is the event, yeah.
Yes, that's when it begins.
Yeah, so I'll spend the first 3 days radiating myself.
Yeah, well, a couple of days traveling is going to be a long road there.
Oh, yeah, I have to go through Manila.
Yeah.
You think they have vanilla in Manila?
Well, probably not, because they don't have the beavers for the anal secretions.
That's true.
Anyway, so we have lots of things coming up, so continue to watch our calendars. Please like our Expansions Facebook page and invite your friends to do the same.
And just like me, actually.
Yeah, Stuart wants to be liked.
Yeah,
Who doesn't
nobody,
want to be
you know,
liked?
Really.
So anyway, we look forward to seeing many of you here in April for our spring annual conference. And of course, you'll be seeing people in Japan and then back to New York City in June. So we have lots of things going on. We always have lots of things going on. Join our membership site, because we always have fantastic things going on over there for our members. That is private for people who are really...
I tell you all my secrets.
You do.
I really do.
Sometimes I'm not so sure. I want to know your secrets.
Well, I write them there so that you can read them, so I don't have to tell you.
It makes it easier for me to digest. All right, with that said...
That's it. So that's all for now, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.